This is my presentation on polar bears by me, Savannah Vasquez. Some basic facts about the polar bear is that their status is vulnerable, their population is 22,000 to 31,000, their scientific name is Ursus maritimus, their weight is 800 to 1,300 pounds, the length is 6 to 9 feet, their habitat is the Arctic sea ice, their classification is a mammal, and their average lifespan is 25 to 30 years old. Some basic info about polar bears is that females aggressively protect their young and receive no help from male mates. In fact, male polar bears may even kill young of their own species. Polar bears are very strong swimmers, and their large front paws, which are used to paddle, are slightly webbed. Polar bears depend on a thick coat of insulated fur which covers a warming layer of fat. Fur even grows on the bottom of their paws, which protect against cold surfaces and provide a good grip on ice. The bear's white coat provides camouflage, but underneath their skin is black to attract the sun's rays. Roughly 60% of polar bears call Canada home. Polar bears can run as fast as 25 miles per hour. And polar bears are at the top of the food chain and have an important role in the overall health of the marine environment. They have no natural enemies. Habitat. Bears populate the annual Arctic sea ice in Alaska, northern Canada, Greenland, Norway, and Russia. Polar bears don't have territories due to the fact that their habitat is always moving. There are 4 sea ice regions. The first is seasonal ice. This occurs in the most southern region of a polar bear's range. Polar bears in this region are the most endangered. Polar basin divergent ice. Ice forms and retreats further and further from the shore. Polar bears in this region are at great risk due to longer swims and/or human encounters on shore. Polar basin convergent ice. Sea ice collects and forms here. It allows for overproductive waters, which means there's a whole bunch of seals. Polar bears in this area fare well here, but it is estimated to be gone in approximately 75 years. Archipelago ice is far enough north that the ice remains during the summer. This ecoregion will provide as a last refuge for polar bears and their prey. Life cycle. The first one is mating, which occurs during spring. Between April and late June, adult male polar bears begin to find mates by following scented trails left by footpads. Males reach sexual maturity between 6 and 10 years old. Females reach maturity between 4 and 6 years old. Polar bear mating goes through a process called delayed implantation. Even though they mate in spring, the fertile eggs don't implant until the following fall, and only if the mother has enough fat to sustain herself and her cubs during denning season. Adult males stay with the female for a few days before taking off. Denning. This occurs in the fall and winter. After feeding throughout the summer and fall, a pregnant female polar bear starts to build a maternity den, where she will give birth to her baby cubs and nurse them until spring. To build her den, the female excavates a small snow cave just large enough for her to turn around in. She then waits for the snow to close the entrance to the cave. Next is birthing, which occurs during the winter. Wild polar bear cubs are most often born in December. The mother gives birth to 1 to 3 cubs, however, twins are more common. The family remains in the den until March or early April. During the 4 to 8 months in the den, the mother doesn't eat or drink. Her sole purpose is to provide for her cubs since they are born blind, toothless, and covered with short, soft fur. They are completely dependent on their mother for warmth and food. They grow rapidly on their mother's rich milk, which is 31% fat, and continue nursing for at least 20 months. Emerging from the den occurs during the spring. Polar bear families generally emerge from their dens in March or April, when cubs are strong enough to survive outside. Now, mother bears can start teaching their young how to survive in the Arctic. Diet. Between late April and mid-July, polar bears hunt ringed and bearded seals on the sea ice. With adult males weighing up to 1,430 pounds and growing as much as 9 feet, they are the world's largest terrestrial carnivores. As a result of climate change, sea ice is melting earlier and forming later each year, leaving polar bears less time to hunt. As their ice habitat shrinks, skinnier and hungrier bears face a grave challenge to their survival. Polar bears spend over 50% of their time hunting for food. A polar bear might catch only 1 or 2 out of the 10 seals it hunts. Their diet consists of ringed and bearded seals because they need large amounts of fat to survive. If the opportunity presents itself, they will also eat whale carcasses. Threats. The threats to polar bears are polar bear-human conflicts. Polar bears are spending longer times on shore and come into contact with Arctic coastal communities. Sometimes these interactions end badly for both parties. Industrial impacts. Offshore petroleum installations and operations in the Arctic are expected to increase in number. This expansion would affect polar bears and their habitat by contact with spilled oil. Oil spill affects the whole food chain, and an oil spill in the Arctic will not remain there and travel much further than in the Gulf. Unsustainable hunting. Many Arctic areas have strong polar bear management and monitoring, but there are a few places where unsustainable, unreported, and illegal hunting appear to happen. Climate change. This is the most important one. Polar bears rely on sea ice as a platform to hunt, rest, and breed. Sea ice has been decreasing in size and melting for longer periods of time. They have to travel longer distances to stay on ice. When ice melts, they rely on fat stores. Some suffer from malnutrition and in extreme cases suffer from starvation. This is seen more often in females with cubs. What is being done to help? WWF is the main group out there to help polar bears by reducing conflict. There are local polar bear patrol teams that help keep towns safe. Noisemakers, electric fencing, bear-proof storage bins, and warning plans help reduce conflict. Monitoring populations. WWF-supported research teams use polar bear trackers to monitor them by satellite. By tracking the polar bears, scientists can map their range of travel and use of habitat. Reducing industrial impacts. WWF's goal is to ensure that whatever industrial element takes place, that it is sustainable and doesn't damage wildlife populations and ecosystems. Addressing climate change. At meetings with governments, WWF has pushed for recognition and response to climate change and was successful. They also advocated for an international polar bear plan. What can we do? We can donate, adopt, or reduce our carbon footprint. In my references slide, the first 2 links I used, you can use to donate. And to adopt, you can adopt a polar bear for only $25. This slide has a link for a live camera feed. This slide shows the references I used for this PowerPoint. This slide is just all the links that I used for the pictures in this PowerPoint. As always, thanks for watching. Bye!